In this lesson, we're going to carry on the work we've already created on our screen time spreadsheet, and we're specifically going to look at if statements and conditional formatting today. So your work last week, you should have had something similar to this. So we looked at formatting in the first lesson, and we looked at some formulas in the second lesson. We were working out our totals, max, min, and our average and our percentage for the day. So this was last week's work. If you haven't got to this stage, you should go back and complete lesson 1 and 2 before we progress on with this video. If you have got this, and we can move on to the next stage. So we're going to get our spreadsheet to provide some information back to us depending on what we've put into it. Now I've got here that we're using Excel spreadsheet, so the information in here is all about Excel spreadsheet, but I'm going to demonstrate using Google Sheets, which is very similar to Excel. It just looks slightly different. So we're going to create our if statements, and we're going to create conditional formatting to show the information or the response from the information we put in. So we're going to create an advice section first of all, and we're going to create and format that advice section. So here's the work you had previously, and we're just going to add this bit in the bottom. So I'm going to bring in my Google Sheets, and to get to Google Sheets from your email, you can click the 9 dots in the corner and just choose Sheets and create this. And I'm just creating an advice section here. I'm going to actually create a large section. I'm just going to merge these cells here. So select a couple cells, format, merge cells, merge all, and I'm going to write advice in. Now I want it to look the same, so I'm going to click on this cell, click my format painter, and click this cell, so at least it looks the same. Now the next stage is just merging these two cells here, and again merge these two cells, and you can do the rest in due course. I'm just going to put a box around these ones so you get used to how Sheets is working as opposed to Excel. So this is what we created, the advice section, and this is what I've got in my Excel version. So we've created this. The next stage is to have our recommended hours of how many hours we use electronic devices for. So we're going to recommend a maximum of 4 hours, and we're just going to build that in. And again, we're going to use the merge tools. If you're in Excel, you've got merge, and if you're then going to wrap text in Excel, we've got wrap text, and I'll show you how to do that again in Google Sheets. So recommended hours per day. First of all, I'm going to create that here. So I'm going to merge these cells, these 4 cells here together, format, merge cells, merge all, and I'm just going to call this recommended hours per day. Now we can see here it disappears off the cell, so I'm just going to go into this one and format text wrapping wrap. And again, I can choose to use the same format painter, so I can have the same colors by choosing this cell here, clicking my format painter and clicking here. It's then gone back to this format, so I do need to just text wrap and wrap those cells again. So recommended hours per day. In here, I'm going to create 4 cells, going to merge them again. So format, merge cells, merge all. And I'm just going to put a box around that and put in the number of 4. Again, we can, thinking back to our first lesson with the formatting, I'm going to put this in the center of this box. So I've just gone to my formatting, align, and I'm going to center that, format, align, and in the middle as well. And I might want this number to be a little bit bigger, which again, I can just make it bold, and my font size, I'm just going to try 18, maybe a little bit bigger, 24. So our recommended hours per day is no more than 4 hours on technology. I know sometimes that's a little bit difficult if we've got a lot of work to do, but we're going to try and stick to 4. We can change this number as we need it. So let's go back to the presentation. So we've created the 4 hours per day, we've got our advice section. The next bit we want to do is in our advice down here, we want the computer to tell us if we've used too much technology that day, if we spent too long looking at a screen. So I've got a statement here, it's called an if statement. So if the total for screen time on a Monday is greater than 4, we want the spreadsheet to say too much screen time. And we can look here, on a Monday the total is 2 hours. So Monday is okay, we haven't got to worry about Monday. So my message can be well controlled screen time. So that's what we're going to build in now. We just need to have an understanding of these mathematical operators. This symbol here means greater than. This one here means less than. This means greater than or equal to. And this one means less than or equal to. So you do need to know these mathematical operators. They're in your knowledge organizer, you just need to be aware of these. I've already spoken about comparing to the total hours, so we're going to get the computer to do all the hard work for us. You'll see a formula written in here. If C10, that's referring to this cell here, C10. So we've got column C, row 10. So if C10, and we spoke about this operator before, this is greater than, so if this cell here is greater than M4, which is this cell here, here's our M and row 4. So if this cell is greater than this cell, it's going to say too much screen time. Otherwise, it's going to say well controlled screen time. You can change your message to anything you think is sensible and suitable. So we've got, if this cell is greater than this cell, say this, otherwise say this. And this is what we're going to build in now. So I'm just going to build this in here. And what I'm going to do is type it in my advice section. This is where I want my answer to be. So equals if, open the bracket, if this cell here, so C10, is greater than, and I'm clicking on this cell here, that cell, if it's greater than that, comma, speech marks, I'm going to say too much screen time. And then I'm going to put my other statement in, so if it's not too much. So I've put a comma in, speech marks, and I'm just going to put OK. You can put your own message in here. I've closed my bracket at the end and I've pressed enter. So we do know it's OK because 2 is less than 4. So this works. I can change my data here. I'm going to change this to a 2. And at the moment it's still OK. We're at 4 because it's still not greater than 4. If I put another one in here, my total will become 5, and therefore 5 is greater than 4 and it's too much screen time. My information doesn't show very well here, so what I might want to do is just format, text wrapping, and wrap text. It's still a little bit too small, so I can just create a bit more space in my advice section for it to fit in. So we're up to this stage so far. If you're in Excel, you will need to save your work as you go along. If you're in Google Slides, it will save it for you. So we've created our if statement for the first day, for Monday. Your task now is to create the if statement for all of the other days to make sure you've got the whole week represented in your if statement. I'm going to just copy through on my work. So we learnt about copying cells before. So what I can do is click on the first cell, and down in the bottom right corner there's a little square. If I hover over that, my cursor changes to a cross, and I can just drag for the other cells and it copies the formula across, but it hasn't actually worked. And in your ePortfolio you need to really explain why this hasn't worked. So 2 shouldn't be saying too much screen time. Now the reason for this is when I drag a cell across, in the first one I've got C10 greater than M4. Because I've dragged it one cell to the right, it's going to move all of this bit of data to the right. So it's going to become D10 to N4. So when I click in that cell, D10 to N4. So I need to be able to lock in my M4 cell, and to do that I can anchor M4, and I'm just going to put a little $sign before the M and a little $sign before the number 4 and click OK. So I've changed that on my first cell. Now when I copy this across or drag it across, it's giving me the right information as I go. So I'm happy with this so far. I'm just going to go back to the PowerPoint. So you need to explain why it didn't work in your ePortfolio. So this is to do with absolute relative cell referencing. So this is when we do not want a cell to change what it's looking at when we drag it along. And here we can see that if I put a $sign before the A and a $sign before the 2, so that's locking in the column and locking in the row. If I put a $sign in before the 2 but I leave it blank at the front, the row is not going to change. So that's going to stay the same. So the column can change, but the row is locked in place. And likewise here, if I put a $sign then the A, I'm going to lock in my column but allow the row to change. So it'd be useful if you made a comment about absolute and relative cell referencing in your ePortfolio, what this $sign does to the cell. Okay, going back to our spreadsheet, we've hopefully now got our if statement working for every day of the week. And if you've got that working, double check that your data's right. So here we've got an 8, that is more than the 4, so that is too much screen time. Here we've got a 2, which is less than the 4, so that's well controlled screen time. We can see that information there. So that's what you're looking to achieve to create the advice section for your spreadsheet. And just a reminder, this is the formula we use to create that. So now what we want to do is make our answers stand out a little bit more. So we're going to use a function called Conditional Formatting. So to get our advice to stand out, and what we're looking to do is, if it's okay, we can colour this cell green, and if it's not okay, we can colour this cell red. And we're going to get the computer to do this, so if our data changes, our advice section will automatically change. And now I'm just going to show you how we actually do that. So in the PowerPoint, here is how we do it in Excel. We click on Conditional Formatting, and in Sheets it's done slightly differently. So here's still Excel. We collect a new rule. We format the cells, so format only cells that contain, if the cell value is equal to the statement you're looking for, we can format that cell and we can tell it what color we want the cell and click OK, and then it will work. I'm now going to demonstrate how to do that in Google Sheets. So I'm actually going to do all my cells at the same time. So I've selected all the ones I want the conditional formatting to work for. I don't have to, I could do one at a time, but it makes sense to do them all at the same time. So I can click on Format and then Conditional Formatting. And then I'm using this box on the side here. I'm just going to move this over so you can see it. So applied to the range, these are the cells I selected. Format cells if text contains, so we're looking for specific writing, and we need to write exactly what we're looking for in our spreadsheet. So I'm looking for too much screen time to be my answer. So if it contains too much, and you need to write it exactly as it's written in your spreadsheet, so too much screen time. And the formatting style, so this is where I want to change my writing on my box to go green. Actually, if it's too much, I probably want it to go red as a warning, too much screen time. I can change the colour of the writing, I can change the format of the writing. For this purpose, I'm just going to leave it as it is and click done. So let's just go out of that a second. We can see that if I do spend too long on a computer looking at a screen, so more than that 4 hours, then this is going to change. So let's just say I'm playing on a game console for 4 hours. I've already spent an hour on social media, an hour on online games, and an hour on mobile games. So my total is going to be 4, 5, 6, 7. And the total, when I click out the cell, changes to 7. And this automatically changes to red. Let's just put some of that data back. And it's gone back to being not red now because it's under that 4 hours. So we can do exactly the same for our cells here, and I'd like you to do the same for yours. Make them turn green if they are okay. So I'm just going to go Format, Conditional Formatting, and I'm adding another rule. And this time, if text contains, and I've just put my OK message in. So remember, this has to be whatever you've written in here as in your if statement. And this time, I just want it to go green to say everything's okay, and click done. So there's my conditional formatting. If I change my data on a Sunday and I spend a lot less time on technology at the weekend, then we can see that these have gone green as well. So that is something called conditional formatting. So we've created the one for too much screen time, and you've created one for well-controlled screen time, or okay, whatever you want to call yours. And that is today's lesson, looking at if statements and conditional formatting. So hopefully you've put some information into your e-portfolio, so you've gone along, screen printed your work and explained it so that it's easy to understand, and showing the formulas that you have used. Your next step is to make sure your work is saved if you've done it in Excel, or you can then save your e-portfolio or close your e-portfolio.